Hi, welcome to Health Professional Radio. Today we have a returning guest, Dr. Ross Walker. Dr. Ross is one of Australia's premier cardiologists and author of multiple best-selling books. He's with us today to talk about omega-3 fatty acids and how everyone around the nation needs it. Did you know that 4 out of 5 Australians don't get enough omega-3 fatty acids in their diet? And there's an omega-3 index test that helps measure its levels on your body. So we're here to talk about omega-3 fatty acids and the new tool that can help measure its levels on your body. Welcome back to Health Professional Radio, Dr. Ross. Always a pleasure to have you back on the show.
It's my pleasure to be on the show, Henry.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the omega-3 fatty acids and how it benefits a person's overall health?
Absolutely. Omega-3 fatty acids are a vital component of many aspects of metabolism, and especially the cell wall. So the covering of the cell wall, the membrane, in a healthy person is 75% fat. But here's the problem. A lot of the times with our modern diets and the way we behave, we're putting bad fats into that membrane, and we need to get good fats there. Now, good fats, a lot of people think that saturated fat, which you get in meat, eggs, and dairy, is bad for you, and that's actually not true. In fact, they're neutral, but the very good fats for you are the omega-3 fats that you get in fish and fish oils, and also the monounsaturated fats that you get in things like olive oil and nuts and other foods like that, avocados. So it's very, very important to have a good level of omega-3 in your diet. Now, here's the problem, as you so rightly said in the introduction. 80% of Australians are not getting enough omega-3 in their system. And the point is, we're not really sure who is getting a good level. So you might have a couple of fish meals a week and think, well, that's all I need, and still have low omega-3 levels in your body. And the best way now of testing that is with this new test called the omega-3 index. Now, what the omega-3 index is a measurement of how much omega-3s you have in your red cell membranes, because it's very easy to access the red cell membranes just through a pinprick test on the finger, and you just get one drop of blood, and that can then take the amount of omega-3s you've got in the red cells, which is a very, very good marker for the general amount of omega-3s that you have through all the cell membranes through the body. So that's why it's so important to know. And as I said, most Australians aren't getting enough omega-3s either through eating fish regularly, especially oily fish, which has the highest amounts of omega-3, or by taking supplements. So I'll give you a personal example here, Henry. I don't particularly like eating fish. I see fish for therapy, meat for enjoyment. And so I don't really like it. So I do have fish when I can, but I would much prefer to supplement by taking omega-3 supplements. So I had my own omega-3 test. Now, if you're 4% or below, you're really in the dangerous level of omega-3s. If you're between 4 to 8%, it's still really not adequate. If you're above 8%, you're doing well. I was absolutely delighted when my results came back that my omega-3 index is close to 12%. And that's for someone who hardly eats fish, because I take a bucket of omega-3 supplementation. Now you say, well, okay, what's the evidence that helps? Well, I can tell you there's a big study done in the New England Journal of Medicine where they looked at omega-3 levels, and they found very clearly that if you have omega-3 levels above 8%, then your risk of sudden death is 90% lower than people who have omega-3 levels below 4%. So it's a very, very accurate test. It's a much greater predictor of risk for cardiovascular disease and cardiovascular death than is cholesterol levels. And so this is something I think is a really, really important, and from a cardiologist point of view, a very exciting new innovation for all Australians, for all people around the world. And so my simple message here is know your omega-3 index. And if it's bad, do something about it.
Why do you think Australians don't get enough of this in their diet?
Oh, well, you look at, say, people like the Eskimos. An Eskimo diet is basically fish and whale blubber, and they have huge amounts of omega-3 indices. But there are places like Australia, like America, that maybe don't eat as much fish. And unfortunately these days, especially with northern hemisphere fish, there's been a lot of damage to the fish population through shipping, through the contamination of waters. Not so bad in Australia, but still many Australians eat fish, but probably not enough. And still not everybody, even if you do eat fish, gets a good level of omega-3. So I just think it's dietary, and I think it may be absorption as well, maybe from the modern diet. And something that we're starting to talk more and more about. I know that in all of my publications and on my own shows, I talk about this all the time, is the gut microbiome. And talking about the health of the bacteria in our gut. And with our modern processed packaged diets, what's happening is we get less diversity in our gut microbiome, so we just don't absorb things as well. I think that's another factor in all of this.
You have a talk coming up this March at the Australian Pharmacy Professional Conference. Can you share with us a little teaser on what you're going to talk about in that conference?
Well, I think I already have, Henry. I'm talking exactly about this subject. I'm talking about, firstly, the benefits of omega-3s and having a good dose of omega-3 either through diet or supplementation. I think, look, if people can get it through diet, that's the way to go, because when you have, say, a good piece of fish, a good piece of quality fish that hasn't been contaminated by mercury or dioxins, if you're getting that fish into your system, you are not just getting the good omega-3s, you're also getting good proteins as well. But again, if that's not available to you or you have low omega-3 index in the bloodstream, by all means supplement. So I just want people to realize no matter how you get omega-3 into the system, it's vitally important to get omega-3s in some way. And that'll be the message that I'll be giving to the pharmacists at the conference in March.
What are the other improvements that a person can do on their diet other than adding omega-3 supplements to having a healthier lifestyle?
I'm glad you asked me that. Look, I've been talking about this for years. Diet's simple, Henry. And can I dismiss to anyone who still has this nonsense going through their heads, low-fat diets are complete rubbish. We need fat in our system. We need good quality protein, and we don't need the sort of processed carbs that we're getting, and we don't need the processed fats that we're getting, the trans fats and the other synthetic forms of fat. So really, the quick summary of diets is eat less and eat more naturally. So what I say to people, we should be really cutting what we eat by about 30%, because this is the problem. In our society, we all eat more food than we need to. We were designed to wander around a jungle for 30, 40 years with a spear. We weren't designed to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, sit in our bums all day. And so what happens is that as we get older, most people are accumulating that little spare tire around the belly. And that abdominal fat is not just an ugly lump of lard. It's a toxic reservoir that holds onto all the synthetic chemicals we get exposed to as well. So firstly, cut back on your food by about 30%. I say to people, eat off smaller plates, eat smaller helpings, don't have second helpings, avoid desserts most of the time, and don't graze between meals. We're not cows, for goodness sake. You don't need to eat between meals. These people say, I've got to have a snack because I'm hungry. There's nothing wrong with being a bit hungry. Get over it. We just don't need to consume as much, number one. Number two, go home with a blowtorch and get rid of your pantry. If it's in a box or a container with a use-by date on the side, it can't be good for you. And don't forget what graffiti is written on the side, low fat, no cholesterol. That stuff is graffiti, and if it's in a box, you should be trying to avoid it most of the time. I'm not saying everything in a box is bad for you, but the best food for you is what I call the Paleolithic principle. Now, this is not the paleo diet. The Paleolithic principle is if you can kill it and eat it straight away or grow it in your backyard, then it's good for you, and after that, all bets are off. And also, with that, avoid what I call white death. White death is sugar, salt, white bread, white rice, Australian pasta, and I'll get onto that in a second, and potatoes, because all this stuff whacks your sugar through the roof. Now, why am I saying Australian pasta? Well, Henry, you would have interviewed a lot of people on the show about this gluten sensitivity that we're seeing now in Australia. Now, why are we seeing it in Australia? Why are they seeing it in America? Because we have this particular type of wheat called Triticum estevan, which has been a hybridized wheat that has a huge amount of gluten. Whereas if you go to a place like Italy where they mainly have durum wheat is it has very low gluten rates, and they just don't see gluten sensitivity. Now, of course, about 1 in 70 people have frank celiac disease. It's a different thing to gluten sensitivity. So when people say to you, I'm celiac, well, most of them aren't. Most of them are just sensitive to gluten because Australian wheat is loaded with gluten. So to me, what's healthy for you is good natural foods. The best diet in the world that's ever been tested is the Mediterranean diet, which involves plenty of fresh fruits and vegetables, nuts, whole grain breads, the whole works. All of those things are very, very important. and little bits of olive oil, of course, a lot of olive oil they have in the Mediterranean diet, little bits of meat, eggs, dairy, fish, nuts, all of those sort of things.
What's the most common misconception that you want to tackle around omega-3 fatty acids and fats in general within our diet?
Oh, the most common misconception to me is that cholesterol in diets is bad for you. So the cholesterol you might get in an egg or a prawn does not end up as fatty plaques in the wall of your arteries. That's complete nonsense. Mm-hmm. And in fact, the best bit of an egg is the yellow bit, because it has good quality cholesterol. It has choline, which is great for memory. It also has lutein, which is really good for your eyes. So get rid of this nonsense about dietary cholesterol is bad for you, and this nonsense that saturated fat is bad for you. There's a little-known university, Henry, in the UK called Cambridge, one of the greatest learning institutions in the world. A couple of years ago, they released a paper that looked at 600,000 people, a 72 trial meta-analysis, and it showed that there was absolutely no link between the intake of meat, eggs, and dairy. And in fact, two major studies have come out of Europe in the last couple of years. 30,000 people over 15 years have shown that those who had the highest intake of high-fat dairy, the highest intake, had around a 30% reduction in type 2 diabetes. So we've got to start getting rid of all these ridiculous myths that have been perpetrated over the last 30, 40, 50 years about diet. Diet is simple: eat less and eat more naturally. That's all you need to know, and part of that should be a good fish intake.
Awesome. Well, that's all our questions for today, Dr. Ross. It was a pleasure having you here on the show.
It's always a pleasure talking to you, Henry. Anytime you like me on, I'd be delighted to come on again.
Sure, that's no problem. And that was Dr. Ross Walker, and we just finished talking about omega-3 fatty acids, how it's important to be in your diet, and the new tool that pharmacists can use for detecting its levels on your body. Thank you for coming back on the show, Dr. Ross. We always appreciate returning guests and hope that we have you back here in the near future.
My absolute pleasure, Henry.
If you've missed this interview, you can find us on SoundCloud and iTunes. It's available both as transcript and as an audio archive at www.hpr.fm. And if you wanted to get in touch with Dr. Walker, his website is drrosswalker.com, drrosswalker.com. I'm Henry Acosta, and you've been listening to Health Professional Radio.